Good morning. It's a weird way to start a watch review. This is going to be a review of this watch that I picked up that I think is super cool. I should not be buying watches. All right, I'm not rolling in the dough right now, but we know it's an addiction. Let's just be honest. I need help. I think most people who are into watches, we probably all need an intervention. You know what I'm saying? eBay's the worst thing. eBay late at night, you know, you're half asleep. Oh, what's that? I stumbled upon it because I always look for deals. I never know what's going to kind of strike my fancy. And you guys know I'm into militaria, right? Having been in the Marines, I dig military stuff. I appreciate the military for the influence that it's had. It sounds funny to put it this way, but the influence it's had on the products that we use every day. And fashion, you can go all the way back. You know, people were walking around in togas and skirts. Pants came along because of the cavalry, the military. And if you wanted to look cool and look like a man, you start wearing pants. That's basically how that works. And when it comes to watches, it's undeniable how watch companies that cater to work, whether it's divers or the military, have influenced that whole world, the whole watch world. That's what got me into kind of collecting and wanting to own all these different styles of watches, just to feel what that was like on my person. Wear it around and see how it functions. Now, I can't afford a Blanc Pan, like an original Aqualung, you know, Blanc Pan, but there's plenty of homage watches out there, which I own several now, you know, and they're beautiful. It's probably my favorite style watch. Now, I got into that. I bought one of the Willard reissues from Seiko, not inexpensive to own, beautiful watch. And the guy who got me into that, my buddy, he had given me a Turtle initially, and we were talking. He's like, just get a Willard. And then that threw me down a rabbit hole, and I had a few extra bucks at one day, and I was talking to him on the phone. We were both on eBay, and we found that watch, and I was paying attention to the Vietnam stuff, and I'm like, oh, wow. And what's really hot right now, of course, people in the know, they've always been into this watch, but it seems like people want it right now, and I'm basing that statement on the fact that I've been looking at these things, and the bidding for them, it's crazy, because sometimes the watches are going up for $30, but they're ending up going for several hundreds of dollars. And these are the Seiko 5s that were worn by the MACV SOG guys in Vietnam. I always forget those acronyms, what they actually mean. For some reason, I always mix up the words in my mind. But these were the guys that were going into Cambodia, working with the CIA, and they couldn't have anything on them. They couldn't have anything on them that was U.S. issue, right? Because if they were killed in action and found, it would be a big friggin' thing with the world, with the media and everything else. Like, oh, we've got American advisors in Cambodia. So they ended up wearing Seikos. And they're really cool, neat watches. Now, one of the things that'll denote a military watch is all the indices are the numerals, 1 through 12. Come on, dude. Like, seriously? I'm living in California as long as I have. I'm used to the California stop where you kind of roll up, you pause for like a millisecond, and then you go if there's nobody around. This guy in front of me is like stopping, looking both ways. It's guaranteed he's over 60 years old. I'm knocking on that door right now. So I find those watches, I look at them, I try to get them. You know, they've been reissued over the years, and he just looks kind of silly. And I just haven't been able to find one. But while I was looking for one of those watches, I stumbled upon this really neat watch. Okay, this is a Seiko. It's a titanium case watch. It came on a titanium bracelet that was too small for me. And I'm gonna read the listing for you. I'm gonna show you some pictures. It already had a new battery installed last month. It's a really interesting perpetual calendar, titanium, really interesting movement, quartz movement that's highly desirable, sought after, and rare. This particular watch was only made for 1 year. This one's from 2001. And we're going to get into that right now, and I hope you enjoy it. So here it is. We're going to take this off the wrist. I just wanted you guys to see this on my 7 5/8 inch wrist. The listing says it is a 42 millimeter case. I measured it at 40 millimeters, not including the crown guards. We'll go over all these details a little bit more macro on the lens here in a moment. But I just wanted you guys to see this on the wrist. And I'll tell you what, right now I'm going to insert a quick shot of the Mac V SOG watch as I was mentioning. Okay, so you saw those watches. You could, you know, I'm not going to say this is a copy of those. Obviously, they're totally different. But you can kind of see what I was liking about them. Just a round, simple watch. And this watch obviously does not have all the numbers for all the indices. Just to get it out of the way, what this is, according to the seller on eBay, he did a really nice write-up. I'll insert a picture of that in a moment, and you guys can read it for yourselves. I don't have that in front of me. I don't have that ability. I don't have a printer. I would have printed it out, read it for you. But it is a rare Seiko. He is saying it's a Pro Specs, and I guess he's saying that because it does have 200 meters of water resistance. It's a Landrek, he's calling it. And apparently, if you read what he wrote, it was supposed to be Landtrek, but there was something with the way that they pronounce the words over there in Japan. So it's Landrek. It's a full titanium case. It did come on a generic titanium bracelet. I mentioned that already. It was too small for my wrist. It was sized for a 7.5 inch wrist. It was just way too tight on me. So I put it on this hemp NATO style. It's got some dust on it already this morning from the shop, and it's a great pairing. You know, this I picked this strap up, and I had divers on it, and it didn't really work because there's not enough structural integrity to this. You can see how flimsy it is. So if you had a dive watch and you tried to turn the dial, it really did not work because the band would just twist on your wrist as you tried to turn this dial. So that was a hassle. So I really didn't have it on anything. This watch, perfect pairing. Being a titanium case watch, it's very lightweight. So it's just perfect. I mean, you don't even know this thing is on your wrist. Now, it's a the number for this watch, it's an SBCM013. SBCM013. That's the model number of this watch. Again, it was only made from about 2000 to 2002. This is a 2001 watch. The movement's an 8F32. It's a high accuracy quartz movement with a perpetual calendar. Really neat. It's a 0350. I guess that is the dial. What I like about the dial are these numerals, the 12, 3, 6, and 9. I don't know, they kind of remind me of like 70s, 1970s, space age numerals. Remember Space 1999, things like that were on television at the time. I'm sure that there's a name for this font. It's really cool. The crystal, hang on a moment. Okay, forgive me. I had already uploaded this video to YouTube and I watched it real quick and I had to take it down because there was a whole segment of a clip. I just stitch a bunch of clips together and then I upload it. But I guess I had recorded part of my description. I thought I recorded it and I didn't. So it wasn't there. It was just a couple extra details I wanted to point out. I think that my Seiko watch collection in particular, just my Seikos, I think I have a pretty good collection. I've got the land tortoise, I've got the land shark, I've got the turtle, I've got the Willard. I've got a lot of really cool. I've got a monster, 3rd gen monster. They're all tool watches. They're all basically dive watches for the most part. And I wanted to point out, this was listed as a Prospex, even though it doesn't have a Prospex logo. But it does have 200 meter water resistance. And so what you notice about this is that it has dive watch styling. It has crown guards. It has a bezel that it does not rotate. The bezel has knurling on it. It's even partially shrouded like you see on the Seiko Monster. It's got a good crystal on it. It's flat. It has this really neat but kind of kooky cyclops there, right, for the date, which is the only place really where there's a scratch. The rest of the crystal looks pretty good. There's a lot of wear on the titanium bezel, where you would normally have a bezel insert. So this thing has been lovingly worn for a couple decades. But I wanted to point out the dive watch styling on this thing. I mean, that is a bezel. It's a faux bezel. But they're hinting at it being a dive watch. Now, the other watches that came out at the same time that have the same movement and are in the same, what would you call it, catalog. You guys saw an insert of the picture there. They are dive watches. So that's what they wanted to do with this. And I'll show you the back of this. Again, I showed you all this. I thought I showed this to you in another clip, but apparently I didn't record it. This is the back side of the watch. So you guys can see all the specifics here. 8F32, movement 0350, made in Japan, titanium. So yeah, I just wanted to bring it to you there, and I'll show you the dial here right quick under the macro. Is that a mark here? Let me get my cloth out for you. But obviously you can see all the indices are applied, bar indices, the numerals. Color match date wheel in black. It's interesting, without the Cyclops, I think that the date wheel would pretty much disappear. Although I don't mind it, I think it's kind of neat. The Cyclops, I'm referring to this this magnified piece that's added to the crystal that you can see protruding beyond the crystal here, clear as day. I mentioned in the section that I didn't record that there is one of these on YouTube. You can watch the video. His is, I think it's over 10 years ago that he posted it, and his watch was a little bit different. It has a high polish on this bezel section, which this may have been. It just could be that it's all worn down. His is also only a 36 millimeter watch with 18 millimeter lugs. This is a 40 millimeter with 20 millimeter lugs. I'm going to grab my calipers. I know I said what the sizes were, but I want to prove it to you. Okay, here we are. Make sure we zero this out. So the case itself it's a 40 millimeter case. All right, with the crown, 43.7. Thickness, 11.4, not including the, we'll go ahead and measure it with the Cyclops. With the Cyclops, it's a 13. So 11.4 11.3. What's going on here? If I force it in there, it's 11.2. With the Cyclops, it's 12.7, 12.6. And your overall lug width on this thing, lug to lug, it looks like it's going to come in at 44.8, 44.9. So now you know. The crown is an interesting thing. It's not a huge crown. It's a 5.2 millimeter crown. Has this really neat detail. So yeah, I looked at the video and I realized I really needed to talk about those details. I thought I had included the clip. So that's it. That's going to be the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this. It is, I believe it's a rare watch. I can't find it anywhere. There was not a lot of information on it. I know that setting this thing when you change the battery is it's a procedure. You should bring it to a watch shop, have a professional watch guy do it, make sure he's aware of how dangerous it is to a certain extent. I watched some video and people discussed how the reason why Seiko stopped producing this movement was, I guess, too many watches were coming in for repair and broken, because even though people were bringing this to a watch shop, a lot of those guys weren't real watch makers. Or the kiosks in malls where people just changed batteries out and they were damaging the movement. And they didn't know how to reset this thing. It's a perpetual calendar watch, so that means it works with leap year. Now, I don't know when this guy put this watch in, when they just recently replaced the battery, if it was set properly for leap year. I'm hoping it was. I guess we'll find out. And I will likely bring this over to Mike at Majestic Watch and Jewelry here around the corner over on Larchmont. And I'm going to ask him to double check the seals for me, the O-ring seal on the back and the seal at the crown, because I want this thing to be 200 meter water resistant. Not that I'm going to take it down 200 meters. I definitely want it waterproof enough so I could take this on a canoe trip or something. You know, jump in the water with it, not have any problems. But yeah, it was funny. I saw it. I really liked the dial face, and I bought into the whole rarity of it and owning this movement. If you're going to collect watches, you might as well have different movements, and that's what makes it kind of cool and fun. And it was kind of after the fact when I got it in my hands and I really started staring at it when I noticed all these dive watch details. Again, the crown guard, the screw down locking crown, the imitation, you know, the faux bezel, I suppose we'll call it. Really neat looking watch. And that's it. You guys have a great day. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed this. I will catch you all in the next one. And typical, this is the definition of the Palooka Watch channel. It's all over the place. Bye.